Alright guys, this is the last video for the review. We're going to look at problems number 25 through 28. So let's take a look at 25. It says Miss Edwards lived in Spain and Mexico for a total of 20 months in order to learn Spanish. She learned 140 new words per month when she lived in Spain and 110 new words per month when she lived in Mexico. In total, she learned 2,530 words. So here, as always, when you have a word problem like this, you're always going to have two variables. And your two variables are always going to be represented by x. Right? You're going to have an x variable. You're going to have a y. Okay, so if you look at this equation, the two things we're dealing with are pretty obvious. We're dealing with how long she lived in Mexico and how long she lived in Spain. So because those are the two things we're getting asked for, we're going to make one of them x and one of them y. Now it's not super important which one you pick to be x or which one you pick to be y, as long as you're consistent throughout the whole process and you know which one's which. So I'm going to make x how long she lived in Mexico, and I'm going to make y how long she lived in Spain. But you could have made Spain x and Mexico y, right? So now we're going to look at the different equations that we're going to have using these two variables. So take it sentence by sentence. Miss Edwards lived in Spain and Mexico for a total of 20 months. So if I were to add up all the students in all my classes, I would be doing the operation of addition. Right? I'd be adding up all my students. So if I need to add up all my students, it would be something plus something plus something. Well, here I'm told to add up all the months, right? The total number of months means all the time she spent in Mexico and all the time she spent in Spain. So I need to add all that up. So I would have x plus y, so that means all the time she spent in Mexico, all the time she spent in Spain. That all equals, right, a total of 20 months. So anytime you see the word total, that probably means you're adding things together. So I'm adding my two variables and it's going to equal 20. Now for my second equation, so that was my first sentence, that one's done. Now my second equation, she learned 140 new words per month. So per implies that we need to multiply something. Well, we have 140, so we might need to multiply 140 times something. Well, 140 new words per month when she lived in Spain. Well, when she lived in Spain is represented by what variable? Y. So we need to multiply 140 and y, which would just look like this, 140y. Right? And then this next part, it says 110 new words per month. Again, it's 110, right? Because and represents plus in math. Like if I had apples and oranges, apples plus oranges. So it'd be 140y plus 110, right? Per is multiplication again. But this time we're multiplying it by when she lived in Mexico, which is x, right? Right? And then she said in total, all that together, she learned how many words? 2,530 words. So all that put together would give me that equation. So now look, I have two separate equations. I have x plus y equals 20, 140y plus 110x equals 2,530. Alright, so I have two different equations. Once you have two different equations, now it's asking us to actually solve this. And the way we solve that, remember there's two ways. We can do it either in the graphing portion of our calculator or in the calculator portion. Through system solve, right? So I'm going to do the system solve method, right? I'm going to go to New Doc because I never used the scratch pad. Don't save. Add calculator. Okay, so once I'm here, you should be familiar with how to get here now. I'm going to go down to Menu. My finger is right here, Menu. I'm going to go Menu, and then we're in Algebra class. I'm going to go to number 3, Algebra. And then this is the same place. Some of you may be familiar with numerical solve, InSolve. Well, number 2, this is the one we're going to use. We're going to use solve systems of linear equations. Remember, when you get here, you don't do anything different. You just click OK. All right, so now I'm at this screen, right? I need to put in this equation in the top box, the other equation in the other box. So let's do it. X plus y equals 20. Then scroll down, 140y plus 110x equals 2530. Okay? So once I have that all in there, I'm going to click Enter. So I get an answer. I get a point. So that means that these two lines intersect at 9, 11. Right? So what does that tell us? Well, we know that 9 is an x value, right? And we know that 11 is a y value. Just as always, that's x, y, x, comma, y. So we know that how long she lived in Mexico is represented by our x value. So we know that she lived there then for 9 months. And then we know she lived in Spain for 11 months. Okay, so on the test, when it asks you to tell how long she lived in Mexico and how long she lived in Spain, you have to remember to make your equations first and then plug them in. Okay, let's take a look at 26. Curtis and Wendy are selling candy bars to raise money for a band trip. Wendy sold 9 more candy bars than Curtis. Together they sold a total of 145 candy bars. Determine how many candy bars Wendy and Curtis sold using the equation W equals 9 plus C and W plus C equals 145. Jason solved the system and got an answer that Wendy sold 68 candy bars and Curtis sold 77. Is his answer reasonable? Okay. So if we take a look at this, they've already done the dirty work for us, right? We already have 2 different equations. We have this thing, and we have this thing, right? And so they're already ready to be put in the calculator. But there's one thing that we should probably change about these, and that is we should probably make them into x and y first. So I'm going to rewrite these as x and y. I'm going to make wx, so it'd be x equals 9 plus y. And then this other one I'm going to call x plus y equals 145. So Wendy is going to be my x, and Curtis is going to be my y. Okay? So now that I've rewritten my equations, I can put these two that are x and y into my calculator, and I can see, okay, when I put them in the calculator, I should get my value of x should be 68, and my value of y should be 77. And if it's not, then my answer is not reasonable. So let's take a look. I'm going to put in these two. Remember, I go to Menu, Algebra, Solve System, OK. Okay, so you should be here. We already did this before. X equals 9 plus y. Then I'm going to scroll down. Go to x plus y equals 145. All right. So I got 77, 68. Right? So 77 would be Wendy, right? That's x. 68 would be Curtis. That's y. So, is that what Jason got? Well, let's look. Wendy sold 68 candy bars. That's not the correct answer. Curtis sold 77. That's not the correct answer. So this is not reasonable, right? Because take a look over here. Wendy sold 9 more candy bars than Curtis. Well, if you look here, Wendy sold less than Curtis in Jason's system solve, right? So obviously, this is not reasonable because Curtis sold less than Wendy. Right? In reality, Curtis sold less than Wendy. But that's not what Jason solved it out to be. Okay? So we can just use logic, or you can actually plug it in your calculator using system solve. It is not reasonable because in reality, Wendy should have sold more, but Curtis sold more. Right? So number 27, it asks, is 0, 3 a possible solution to the system of inequalities shown below? Well, on these, you got to use a little bit of logic, right? Because this is not printed out in color, so you got to think, okay, what is actually the double shaded area? So, as a review, solutions are always in the double shaded area. Solutions are always in the double shaded area. So we need to figure out where on my graph is the double shaded area, right? So let's use logic. Let's take this line first. If you look at this line, is my shading above or below? Well, if it was above, wouldn't this section be highlighted? It would, right? So clearly, this line is shaded below. So I'm going to draw my line with a certain color, and I'm going to shade below. Because if it was shaded above, then there wouldn't be any white space above it. Right? So I've got my orange. Okay, that's my first line. It's shaded below. Alright, now I got to figure out my other line, right? So my other line is clearly dashed, so I'm going to make it dashed so I don't get confused. And I got to think, okay, is it shaded to the right or to the left? Well, if it was shaded to the right, wouldn't this white space be highlighted? It would, right? So it's clearly shaded to the left. Right? So it's shaded above. So my double shaded area, therefore, is this right here. Right? This portion right here. So 0, 3 is right here. Right? 0, 3. It is on a solid line bordering the double shaded area. So since it is on a solid line, yes, it is a possible solution. So yes, it is on a solid line bordering the double shaded area. It is on a solid line bordering the double shaded area, right? So it can either be in the double shaded area, anywhere in this section, or it can be on a solid line. But if it would have been on this dashed line right here, it would not have been a solution. Because a dashed line, you can never have a solution on a dashed line. Okay, so is 0, 3 a possible solution here? Yes. Okay, let's take a look at 7, 8 on number 28. So my point is 7, 8, 6, 7. So I would go over 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I need to figure out, okay, is this the double shaded area? So first I got to do my thing again. I'm going to take a look at each line. So I'm going to take a look at this line first. Well, I know it's solid, so I'm going to make it a solid line, right? And I know it's not shaded below because this is white. So I know it was shaded above. So don't use the thinking that, well, the darkest gray is always going to be the double shaded area. Okay, let's take a look at the other line. This line is dashed. Okay. Now, it's obviously not shaded to the left, it's obviously shaded to the right, because if it was shaded to the left, then this white part would be shaded. Okay, so is that point in the double shaded area? Well, my double shaded area is right here. So yes, it is in the double shaded area. So is 7, 8 a solution? Yes. It is in the double shaded area. Okay. So the ways that something can be a solution is if it is either in the double shaded area or it is on a solid line bordering the double shaded area. If it's on a dashed line, it will never work. Okay, so make sure that on the test you know what the double shaded area actually is. If you need to get some colored pencils out and do that, you need to do that. And up here, just remember to do your equations correctly and know how to do system solve in the calculator. Alright, good luck.